Have you ever noticed that the smallest questions can expose the deepest parts of who we are? A doctor would ask, where does it hurt? A counselor would ask, why do you think that is? And Christ, our Redeemer, our Savior, would probably ask, do you want to be made whole? But what if I told you there is a set of 4 simple questions, not from a church, not from a prophet, not from a revival, but from a secular organization? Yes, you heard me right. A secular organization. You see, when these are held up to scripture, they become one of the most convincing, clarifying, and character-shaping tools a Christian could ever use. Does that sound interesting? How does that feel to you? And what if I also told you that these 4 questions could transform your speech, your decisions, your relationships, your leadership, your witness as a Christian, your faith, and your legacy? Today, brethren, we are going to confront ourselves with the 4-way test of Rotary International, but through the eyes of Christ, through the lens of discipleship, and through the heartbeat of God's coming kingdom. As some of you may know, I was once a Rotarian. I was a member of the Rotary Club International in Nigeria. And within 4 short years of my membership, I rose through the ranks to become the president of my club. And then in the next 5 years, I rose through the ranks to become the district governor of my district. And that is the highest position you could ever aspire to attain at the district level. As the district governor, I was in charge of over 75 clubs spread across about 11 states plus the Federal Capital Territory of Nigeria. Interestingly, I went through, I would call it 4 years of training to do a 1 year's job. You handle the district governorship for 1 year, but you go through 4 years of training. First, 3 years as assistant governors, then 1 year as district governor nominee. In fact, 5 years, because then another year as district governor elect before you become the district governor. So that's a human secular organization. And through this period, the 4-way test is ingrained in you. It becomes your life. It becomes what you breathe. It becomes what you think. My goal, brethren, was to become the president of Rotary International. That was what I was gunning for. But God had other plans for me. And somewhere along the line, he arrested me and turned my direction, and I went into full-time ministry, which I consider a higher calling than just serving humanity through Rotary. Good afternoon, everyone, and welcome to today's Sabbath services. It's another beautiful time to be in the presence of the Lord. And for me, particularly today, it's quite exciting because we have a live service going on here. And we have how many people in the room in one location? It's been a long time we've had that. So good afternoon to you all who are also watching us from across the seas, as I put it, from overseas, as we will say in Africa. Now, brethren, my goal today is simple. It is to use the four-way test of Rotary International to call us to a higher standard of truth, integrity, compassion, and courage, so that our lives become a living testimony of our eternal Father in every decision we make. So if you are ready for God to raise your standard, if you are ready for God to stretch your character, build your character, expand your character, if you are ready for God to mature your walk with Him, I want you to make this solemn declaration to yourself, just to yourself. I am ready. I'm sure you said that to yourself, right? Now, according to Rotary International, the four-way test is applied to the things we think, say, or do. Meaning, it is a moral and ethical filter of every area of our lives, including, but not excluding, personal decisions, business dealings, professional conduct, relationships and communication, leadership and community involvement, everyday interactions and choices. Rotary describes it as a moral code for personal and business relationships. Note the words, personal and business relationships, and emphasizes that it can be applied to almost any aspect of life. And I dare say, even more so to your spiritual life. So today, we would use this test to demonstrate how we as Christians can become kingdom ready, ready for the coming kingdom of God, ready to be sons and daughters, ready to be rulers with Him in His kingdom. But first, let me start by giving us the 4 questions of the four-way test. The 4 questions go like this. First, is it the truth? Is it fair to all concerned? Will it build goodwill and better friendships? Will it be beneficial to all concerned? 4 questions we are going to be trying to weave in and use today to demonstrate and show how we as Christians can apply this to our everyday lives as we march on, as we prepare to be rulers with Christ in His coming kingdom. So I'm going to walk us through each one of these steps or questions. Question number 1, is it the truth? Remember, this can be applied to the things we think, say, or do. Is it the truth? Turn with me, if you like, to John, the 8th chapter, John chapter 8, and we'll take our reading from the 32nd verse. John chapter 8, verse 32. Now, brethren, truth is not a concept. It is not an opinion. Truth, the truth, is not my truth or your truth. Truth is what? Christ himself. He is the truth. And when you encounter him, he doesn't just inform you of the truth of himself. He transforms you through his life. So let's read John 8:32. And I'll first read it from the Message translation. Now you know I have fallen in love with this translation. From the Message translation, John 8:32. Then you will experience for yourselves the truth, and the truth will free you. You will experience for yourself, not somebody else, not a story from another person, not an intuition, something somebody else is telling you, but for yourself, you will experience the truth. And remember, who did we say is the truth? Christ is the truth. So when Rotary asks you that question, is it the truth? You are talking as a Christian. Is this Christ-like? Is this what Christ would do? Is this how Christ would think? Is this what Christ would say? Remember, you will know it. Christ did not say, you will learn the truth. He says, you will experience the truth. The New King James translation says, you will know the truth, and the truth will set you free. You will know it. In fact, he didn't say you will. I am using will. He says, you shall know the truth. Brethren, there's a huge difference between will and shall. As a lawyer, I can tell you that. Because once we see the word shall in a document, it's an imperative action. It's not left up, it's not thrown up for choice. It's something that must be done. So it says, you shall know the truth, and the truth shall make you free. Brethren, you will know the truth. Truth is meant to be known. And Christ is truth. Then Christ is meant to be seen in your life, to be known in my life, if we are to know the truth. Not just know it, but live it. Live it in our everyday walk, talk, and thinking. We live the truth. It's meant to be walked in. It's not just meant to be explained away to some other people. When people see me and see you, what do they see? Do they see the truth? Do they see Christ in us? Do they see us thinking the way Christ would think, bringing his thoughts into every situation? Brethren, truth is meant to be embraced, to be embodied. That's what truth is meant to be. So I want to remind you as we go forward that the truth sets you free. So as a Rotarian and as a Christian, when I think of the four-way test, is it the truth of the thing I think, say, or do? It reminds me that that truth is Christ. And is it how Christ would think about it? Let's give you a real story of how truth still sets people free. There's a young woman named Amara. She worked at a fast-growing tech company. hardworking, respected. But you know what? For years, she carried a secret that was eating her up, burning her up. And what was that secret? And a lot of people do it in this country. She was actually using someone else's certificate, degree certificate, as her own. She told herself it was harmless, that as soon as she obtained hers, because she had enrolled to obtain hers, but she hadn't. So she said, as soon as I obtain mine, I will go to the HR and explain and find a way around it and swap it out. But this kept burning at her, eating her up. And promotion after promotion, she was rising through the ranks because she knew the stuff she was doing, but she was using, the foundation was faulty. The foundation was false, literally. So one day, Amara summed up courage. She couldn't live the lie any longer. And she walked up to her HR manager and she said, I have something to tell you. It could cost me my job. It could cost me going to prison. It could cost anything. But I've decided to come clean. And she explained. And she told the HR manager her truth. The manager looked at her and smiled. She was shocked, smiling, when she thought she was going to get a huge frown and reprimand. And the manager said, we know. We found out. You know, though we saw you were good at your job. And we also found out that you were working on getting yours. So all along, they knew. So, but one thing we want to tell you is that this company is built on integrity and truth. You lied, you deceived, but we let it go because we saw you were very good in your job. So I'm going to encourage you, finish that program. Are you going to get some punishment for that? Definitely. Now that you've come clean, you will still receive your punishment. But I assure you, if you maintain the truth, because you came clean by yourself, we didn't confront you with what we found out, we will let it slide. And Mara felt a weight lifted off her shoulder. She told her truth. After telling her truth, she could finally breathe again. The truth, brethren, did not expose her to shame. It exposed her to freedom. And that's what happens when we find our truth, when we find Christ, when we walk with Him, when we walk in the truth. At times it might be painful, it might look painful, but ultimately it will give us freedom. Freedom. We may suffer some consequences of having lived the lie, like Amara ultimately did, but the truth set her free. And that's what the truth does with us. It doesn't crush you. It cleanses you. It doesn't shame you. On the contrary, it shifts you. It doesn't imprison you. It liberates you. So before you speak, remember we are talking about the four-way test of the things we think, say, or do. Before you speak, before you even think it, before you post that thing, before you say that thing, test it. Before you repeat something that you heard, test it. Is it the truth? Is it the truth? Truth is the first test. That is the foundation. Without the truth, everything else collapses. And so, if it is the truth, it takes us straight to the second question. Is it fair to all concerned? In other words, is that truth fair to all concerned? Is Christ fair to all concerned? Let's go to Proverbs chapter 11, and we'll take our reading from the first verse. Proverbs chapter 11, and we'll read verse 1. Folks, before we do so, and as you turn there, I want to let us know that fairness is not weakness. Oftentimes, we mistake fairness for weakness. Being fair doesn't mean you are weak. Fairness is, on the contrary, kingdom justice, wearing everyday clothes. It's God's justice, being fair to all concerned. Proverbs 11:1. From the Message translation again. God hates cheating in the marketplace. He loves it when business is above board. Did you read that? God hates cheating in the marketplace. He loves it when business is above board. The New King James translations puts it this way. Dishonest scales are an abomination to the eternal, but a just weight is his delight. Brethren, does that ring in your ears? Fairness means I don't manipulate outcomes. I don't tilt the table in my favor, or in the favor of my loved one, or in the favor of my family, or in the favor of my friend, to the detriment of somebody else who is also ably qualified but totally unrelated. I don't win or give victory to my flesh and blood at the expense of somebody else who might even be better qualified. You don't do that. Fairness is the fruit of a heart that trusts God enough not to cheat. Let that sink in. So when you say, is it the truth? And you say, is it fair to all concerned? And that is why we say, it is not your truth. It is not my truth. First, you want to ask yourself, is that truth fair to all concerned? When I make it my own truth or your own truth, it becomes jaundiced. It could be prejudiced because that's my truth. But that's what the question is, as Rotary phrased it. He didn't say, is it your truth? He phrased it correctly. He said, is it the truth? Definite, objective truth. Not subjective, but objective. Is it fair? Objective. So, brethren, as I progress, I also want you to make this declaration to yourself, not to me, between you and your Father. I will do right, even when it is hard. I will do the right thing, even when it is hard. I'm sure you've said that to yourself. And as I go on, share another story. Just a short one this time. As many of you know, we were all affiliated, most of us here today, we are affiliated to the previous organization. And when I was let go, Christine and I started rebuilding financially through our financial services business. We were going into the business world, and already we had begun to see a few things here and there that were a little bit uncomfortable. But we made a decision. We will not follow the crowd. We will never take advantage of anyone to get ahead. Because we saw other qualified agents persuading people to take policies that they couldn't maintain just because they were going to get a big commission out of it. And we told ourselves, no, we will not do that. Our business is what is fair to the client, not necessarily what profits us best. I remember telling somebody, in fact, at times we would design policies for people, and then both of us will look at each other and we say, wow, we really shortchanged ourselves. But when we look at it, we say, we are happy. We did the best for our client. One of our uplines on one occasion looked at something we designed. He said, what is in this for you? You gave away everything to the client. I said, but it's the client paying. I'm not the one. It's for him. It's for his benefit. It was a conscious decision we made. I recall telling somebody, listen, I'm not a chicken spring. I didn't just start life today. I'm in my 60s. I'm not just looking for money. I got into this for your well-being. And that is why I've designed it this way, so that wherever you take my policies, to whoever specialist you take it to, he will look at it and say, hey, you got a good deal. Who did this for you? Brethren, that is being fair to all concerned. So ask yourself, are you fair? What we did, I can tell you, and we have committed to doing, is integrity under pressure. Because if we look at our financial situation, we will say, man, we need this money. It doesn't matter how it comes. After all, by the time they will be cashing out this policy, I might be long dead. I might be long gone. So it doesn't matter. But no, we want it to stand the test of time. So that if 30, 40 years down the line, I'm gone, and a child of mine or a grandchild of mine says, hey, I'm Vidal's child, I'm Christine's child. I said, your father did this thing for me, and he gave my father a wonderful thing. Not, you mean you're the child of that man who gave us a horrible deal? You look forward and not backwards. So ask yourself, does what you are thinking, saying, or doing honor everyone involved? Am I being fair, even when no one sees? Am I taking advantage of somebody who doesn't know, who trusts me as the person delivering this business to him? And trust me, am I taking advantage of that person? Brethren, truth without fairness becomes cruelty. It becomes wickedness. And that takes us to question number 3, which is, if that thing is the truth and it is fair to all concerned, will it build goodwill and better friendships? Would it do so? Let's turn to Romans, the 12th chapter, and we'll take our reading from the 18th verse. Romans chapter 12 and verse 18. Again from the MSG. And as you do so, to remind us that goodwill is the currency of God's kingdom. Friendship is the architecture of community, while unity is the fragrance that comes from Christ. And hear me well and good. Goodwill is not just about being kind. It's about being connectable. Connectable. It's about being someone people can feel safe around. It's about building relationships that reflect the Christ you profess. Does your profession match your confession? Does it reflect? What kind of goodwill are you building? Are you building goodwill or ill will? Romans 12:18. And it reads from the MSG. If you've got it in you, get along with everybody. I like the way you put it. If you've got it in you, get along with everybody. Don't give excuses. In other words, if you have Christ in you, get along with everybody. The NKJV translation gives us some room. It says some latitude. It says, if it is possible, as much as depends on you, live peaceably with all men. As much as is possible. So our duty, our job, our DNA as Christians is structured in such a way, or should be structured in such a way, that we attract, we build goodwill rather than ill will. We attract people to Christ who see the Christ likeness in us. Does that make sense? Goodwill means I am not just right, I am relational. You're not seeking to just be right. In that conversation, you are not just seeking to air your opinion and be right. You want to be relational. You want to be friendly. I'm not just truthful. We've talked about, is it the truth? But I'm also tender. Christ is the truth, but he's also the tender shepherd who doesn't hammer us with it. I remember when we were trying to join our former organization, and some people with one of the other group churches of God that we had some ongoing affiliation with at the time, and some of them asked us, he said, where you are going to? In fact, I remember the person I called my father in the Lord, my own spiritual pastor, my father, my own pastor at the time. I remember him telling us that where you are going to? Yes, the leader there, he has the truth, no doubt, but he doesn't have love. He doesn't have love. He's not tender. He's harsh. He's hard. Is that where you want to go to? So if you have the truth, what goodwill do you have? How tender are you? How merciful are you? It's not just being fair to all concerned. It's also being friendly. So goodwill is the difference between being correct and being Christ-like, exhibiting the attitude of Christ. Christ combined the truth with being fair and having that goodwill to all. So again, I want you to affirm to yourself, I want to build, not break. I want to build. I want to build relationships. I want to build friendships. I don't want to break, but build. Now, let me give you a real story This one concerns somebody that I knew personally, that shows goodwill looks like what goodwill looks like in everyday life. Single mother named Adanna, back home, took her car to a local mechanic because it kept stalling on the highway. She was actually a widow. She was terrified this was going to cost her thousands to fix. She knew nothing about cars. She was the one telling her story. And she thought she was going to be ripped off, but she went anyways. The mechanic took a look at it and could have easily taken advantage of her because it looked like it was a big deal. He could have exaggerated the problem or even sold her parts that she didn't need. I mean, many were doing that, but instead, he listened to her, checked out the car, and found out that it was a very small issue, just a loose battery that needed the connection that needed to be fixed correctly. Took only a few minutes to fix it. Tightened it, closed the head, and told her, then you are good to go. And when she asked, how much do I owe? He smiled and said, nothing. Just be safe out there as you drive. She couldn't believe it. She broke down. She was the one telling this story. She broke down crying because she was already afraid it was going to cost her so much. It wasn't just the free repair that she got that moved her. It was the kindness that was shown to her. We are talking of goodwill. Now imagine that goodwill. Adana became the greatest advocate for that mechanic. Anybody who had any issue she knew, she said, go to Sam. He will take care of you. Go to Sam. He will take care of you. I think that's how I even got to know him myself. And he became my own mechanic also because he showed that goodwill. So we're looking at goodwill. Adana walked in scared and walked out happier because somebody has shown her some kindness. Brethren, but goodwill doesn't just bless people. Again, let me repeat it. It builds friendships. It makes you become marketable. When you show goodwill, you become marketable because others will market you because they've seen that in you. Right? Let me show you what I mean. There was another case of two co-workers. Again, most of my experiences in life is from the good old country. Forgive me. That's where I had a lot of interpersonal relationships and friends. I grew up there for 51 years. So don't blame me if I go back there very frequently to give my examples. Now, these were two people that worked in the same place, Elechi and Emeka. They barely spoke beyond polite greetings. They didn't really know each other as such. But they worked in the same department for years, but never really connected. However, one day, Elechi noticed Emeka seemed off, quieter than usual, withdrawn, distracted. You know, just as I noticed somebody today and asked, are you okay? You know? Now, instead of ignoring the question, Elechi simply said, instead of ignoring Emeka, Elechi simply said to him, Nga, that's how we say in my, hey man, in my language, we say, Nga, it's all okay with you? Are you good? You don't seem like yourself. Something wrong? Is something bothering you? That one question opened the floodgate. Emeka shared that his father had just been diagnosed with terminal illness. He was overwhelmed, trying to balance work, hospital visits, taking care of his dad, and all the other family responsibilities he had. You know what Elechi did? He did not preach. He didn't pry so much. He didn't offer cliches. He just listened to Emeka. He checked in the next day and the next and the next. Weeks later, Emeka said, you know, I've worked here for years, but you are the first person who ever made me feel like I wasn't alone. That's goodwill, brethren, turning into friendship. Elechi showed goodwill to Emeka, and it turned into a friendship. That's compassion, turning into connection. That's how you become a walking, talking epistle of Jesus Christ. That's how the kingdom spreads. One act of genuine care at a time. Family and folks, goodwill is not just about being nice. It's about being present, being approachable, being available. It's about creating the kind of relational warmth where friendships can grow. Friendships that reflect the heart of Christ. So ask yourself, does my thinking, my saying, or my doing build bridges or burn them? That's a good question to ask yourself. Does it strengthen relationships or strain them? Does it make me more like Christ or more like a judge breathing down the necks of people? Brethren, truth and fairness without goodwill become cold. Goodwill warms the truth. So, having determined it is the truth, fair to all concerned, that it builds goodwill and better friendships. The next question is, question number 4. Will it be beneficial to all concerned? Will it be beneficial to all concerned? Will that thing I am thinking or wanting to do or everything, that thing I think, say, or do, will it be beneficial to all concerned? Philippians 2, chapter 4. Philippians chapter 2, verse 4. Philippians 2, 4. Again from the MSG. Brethren, I want us to realize that benefit is not about advantage. It's about blessing. When we say, will it be beneficial to all concerned? It's not about taking advantage of anybody for yourself. It's about blessing others. Benefits is not about what do I get. It is who gets lifted up. What can I give to bless somebody else, to lift up somebody else? Philippians 2:4, it reads, put yourself aside from the MSG and help others get ahead. That is true benefit. Put yourself aside. Don't just think of yourself. Will it be beneficial to all concerned? The New King James translation says, let each of you look out not only for his own interest, but also for the interest of others. It is not saying that you should neglect yourself or neglect your own interest entirely. What it is saying, that don't just think of yourself, think of others. How will I benefit others? How will I also help others? Being beneficial to God's coming kingdom means everyone rises. Everyone you come in contact with, you want them also to win. You want them to be strengthened. You are not just thinking of yourself alone. All I care is that I want to make it into God's kingdom. I don't care if anybody else doesn't make it. It's your business. It's your lookout. No, that's not the mindset. The mindset is that my brother, my sister, I want you to be there too. And so whatever I can do or assist you to be there, I will do it sacrificially. I will do it with love. So, brethren, if you want to be beneficial to others, affirm to yourself, I want my life to lift others. I want my own life to also lift others. Now, let me tell you about another very personal story this time about what benefit looks like in action. My mother was a high school teacher, more like a junior high school teacher in America today. She was teaching classes 1 and 2 in Nigeria, which would be the high school, junior high school equivalent in the US. I remember her talking about one of her students whose name was Chioma, if I remember clearly. Quiet girl. Chioma was falling behind in class. She wasn't doing well. And my mom had to find out what was wrong with Chioma. She wasn't disruptive. She wasn't disrespectful. She was just drowning silently as a result of the trauma she was going through at home. So what did my mom do? My mom decided to go out of her way to assist this young girl. Rather than letting her just slip through the cracks, my mom stayed back with her after school, would coach her, would talk with her, find out what was going on, teach her, give her extra teaching at no cost. And I remember she would even take food when going to school to say, that is for Chioma, and give to this young girl. With time, Chioma began to find her reading, and she began to become more alive and more involved and started doing well in school. Of course, she transitioned from my mother's class, went to higher classes. Years passed by. But the story is that Chioma herself, during her graduation, said she gave her credit to being in that school, to having reached graduation, to one teacher, and that was my mom. She said, finally, somebody believed in me that I could do it, and that was Mrs. Wachuku. And she helped me through. My mom didn't just teach her, she lifted her. She didn't just help her pass, she helped her to rise. But let me tell you how this benefit that given to her became a benefit to us also. I remember this was in 1976. I was a 16-year-old boy. And I was traveling with my mother internationally from Nigeria to her country. We were in the airplane, Nigeria Airways, back in the day. And we noticed this particular air stewardess. That's what they were called back then. Now they are called air hostesses. Then they were called air stewardesses and stewards. We noticed that this particular young lady was paying us extra attention. She would bring food, she would bring this, she would bring gifts, she brought souvenirs, everything. And we were wondering what's going on. Why was this young lady paying us this extra attention? So it was towards the end of the flight. She came and stood by my mother and said, do you remember me, Mrs. Wachuku? Mom was like, okay. She even knows my name. And she said, she then introduced herself. She said, Madam, I'm that girl, Chioma, that you made sure graduated. My mom couldn't believe it. She didn't even remember her. She was so ecstatic. That is how one small act of kindness turned into several years later. This was something that happened years after the girl had graduated from school and left. She told my mother that she would never forget her because it was because of her she finished from high school and could be doing what she was doing. The moral of this quick story is for you to ask yourself, what am I doing to help someone else grow? Would someone else be able to meet you in an airplane or somewhere like that and say, you made a difference in my life, or you made a difference in the life of my child, or it made a difference in the life of somebody that I knew or know? Brethren, will it be beneficial to all concerned? So ask yourself, that thing that I do, does it move anybody forward? Does it leave somebody better? Benefit is the fruit of a kingdom heart. So as we come to the end here, gradually come here. Let me wrap this up. When you put the four-way test together, that has helped to shape my life a lot. You will get a picture of the kingdom lifestyle that God expects from you and from me. A life that looks like that of Christ. And it can be summarized thus. Truth is not only God, but it is his character. Fairness is his justice. Goodwill is his compassion. And benefit is his generosity. Let me take that again. Truth is God's character, not just God himself, but his character. Fairness is his justice. Goodwill is his compassion. And benefit, his generosity. So, brethren, this is not a corporate test at all. Rotary has it for corporations and for businesses and all that. But for us, this is a kingdom mirror. We are living in a world drowning in noise, drowning in opinions, drowning in half-truths, shortcuts, and self-promotion. But God is raising up a people, a remnant, a standard-bearer generation who will live differently if you choose to do so. He has called you. Will you be chosen? Will you live his truth? Will you live differently? So, folks, today, not tomorrow, not next week, today, right now, I'm asking you to commit. Before you think, test it. Before you speak, test it. Before you post, test it. Before you decide, Test it. Before you react, test it. Before you judge, test it. If it's not true, don't say it. If it's not fair, don't do it. If it doesn't build goodwill, don't pursue it. And if it doesn't benefit others, don't choose it. I pray for you that the Eternal Father would raise your standard, raise your character, and raise mine, and raise our collective witness. Because when the people of God live this way, the world sees the living Jesus Christ in us, without us having ever to announce him.